What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to NFL Turf Talk. We are live here to get ready for the Week 8 slate. Scotty, this season is flying by, guys. First and foremost, if you are new to the channel, do us a favor, do yourself a favor, and make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow on all social media platforms. And this is the best spot to get your thoughts, comments, and questions pulled up. Like our girl Terry, each and every one of our live streams. I'm one half your host, Dylan Davis. To my right, my faithful co-host, Scotty. Interesting slate, man. Not as good as week 7. Won't live up to what week 7 brought us, but a couple interesting matchups, a couple interdivision matchups we'll get into. Some returning news to get into when it comes to Tua, some other storylines, but we're gonna break it all down for you guys and get into our best bets later on in the show. My man, happy Sunday, and what is going on?
Happy Sunday, man. Very, very. I guess you could call it a dull slate here today. So I'll get to focus all of my attention on the Eagles and Bengals early on.
Yeah.
And then we'll kind of move from there. The Bears Commanders, I believe that game is at 4:30, which is perfect.
Right.
Because I'm going to switch right.
Well, it's
over.
what we got flexed out for.
Oh, yeah, duh. Yeah, you are correct. I remember seeing that report now. So I got those two games on my mind. Those are huge games for the NFC East as a whole. But yeah, aside from that, I mean, Sunday Night Football is cool. It is Cowboys Niners, right? That's Sunday. Yeah. So that's a cool game. Both of those teams are struggling right now. It'll be interesting to see who can persevere from them. There's a couple other interesting matchups. I don't know if they're interesting because of the actual matchups. Yeah. Or if they're just interesting because of the line, like the actual, right. You know what I mean? Like Falcons versus the Bucks, for example. The Bucks just lost both of their starting receivers, and they're only 3-point underdogs to the Falcons.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what it is right now, but on ESPN Bet, I have Atlanta -1.5.
-1, so it dropped even further. It's -2.5 last night.
It's essentially a pick 'em.
So maybe let's start there. I mean, 1 p.m. slate. Like, what are your thoughts there? Because that one confuses me off top, man. Like, I really don't understand why the Falcons aren't favored more. I get it's in Tampa, right?
Right.
Still, I expect Baker to struggle without Mike Evans and Chris Godwin.
Yeah, and if my memory serves correct, these two teams met not too long ago in Atlanta when Younghoe Koo walked it off with a win. So Atlanta was able to take game 1 of the 2 games this year, and that was with the healthy Bucs team, and that's when Baker was really rolling. I do agree the line is weird, but this is a perfect opportunity for Kirk Cousins and the Falcons to start to take a little bit of control in the NFC South. You mentioned it. I believe Mike Evans is out there their bye week, which comes in week 11. So he won't be returning until at least week 12, 4 or 5 weeks from now. Chris Godwin, done for the season, was in an air cast with 4 minutes to go in that blowout against Baltimore on Monday night. So you mentioned it, man. I don't know who Baker gets the ball to sustain drives. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I think the Bucs will be able to put a drive or two together. They'll put up a little bit of a fight, but there's no way that offense can sustain drive after drive and keep up with what could be a high scoring affair for Atlanta. They ran the ball pretty well to start the game against Baltimore. Then things kind of dipped out with Bucky Irving and Rachaad White. If they can't run the ball today well against Atlanta, I don't think Tampa Bay has a shot in hell. So that line's really weird. It might be one of my best bets towards the end of the show when it comes to Atlanta. Just don't want to get fooled.
Yeah. That's the thing, right? The line is so close. I don't want to be tricked by the books here and fall for something that I'm just completely missing. So if there's anybody out there that has an idea as to why the line has moved to even 1.5 now, definitely let us know in the comments. Because I mean, that's I guess I'm looking into it because of the way things have kind of played out over the last couple of weeks as well, right? When you look at some of these tricky spreads. But yeah, it just feels like a Falcons like hammer spot, man. I even saw like Bijan touchdown, low, like the best odds I've seen it at this season, 115 around there. So like even there, man, like they put up 36 points against them. And I get it's in it, but still, it's like the Falcons. I don't expect them to slow down here.
Yeah, and Tampa just has no way to match that today, man. I just can't see it. I can't see it. So I do agree with you. It could be a hammer spot when it comes to the Falcons. NFC South matchup, 4-3. But like we talked about, you have the Panthers who are out of it completely, obviously.
Yeah,
You have the Saints who have been missing Derek Carr and missing a bunch of other pieces. They're beat up to hell. They've
yeah,
obviously dipped off after their 2-0 start to the year with all those points they scored. So it really is and was a two-team race. It really shouldn't be a race anymore, man. Like there's no
yeah.
explanation as to why the Falcons shouldn't take a stranglehold on this division, and it does start today. So it could very well be a perfect spot to lay the Falcons for me today because I think they know that, right? Like if you
Yeah.
can't go into Tampa and win this game today with how beat up they are on the offensive side of the ball, how
This is
successful you were against their defense, you saw what the Ravens were able to do to them on Monday night. And I know the Ravens and the Falcons are on different levels, but Kirk Cousins, Bijan, Drake, like they should be able to move the ball and put up points today. So I do love the Falcons in this spot as well. Another weird line that you brought up before the show, the game right below this, Packers Jags. It's in Jacksonville. On ESPN Bet right here, it's -3.5. I don't know if it's juiced anywhere else on other books, maybe up to 4.5 on some sites, but very odd line. Especially because it's not like the Jags are 2-5 and they've just underperformed or have been hurt. Dude, they're just not a good football team. That they're poorly
Yeah,
coached. Doug Peterson is 1,000% on the hot seat. Trevor
yeah.
Lawrence only 9 touchdown passes up to this point in the season. I don't see how the Jags are able to hang in there with Green Bay today. And for the Packers, I think you and I on Thursday's show talked about how difficult all those NFC North remaining schedules are. This is one of those games on the schedule for the Packers that is the most winnable. That is one of the games you point to and go,
Yeah.
yeah, they need this one if they want to continue to fight with the Vikings and the Lions for that North division. So I do love the Packers in this spot as well.
Yeah, no, I do feel you here, and I'll be honest, Dylan. The only reason I'm staying away from this game is
Yeah.
because there is a capper out here that Darius actually in the comments he sends me his picks all the time, and for some reason this capper is just all over the Jags like plus like 4.5 and Jags money line, and I don't know. It does feel weird. Like the Jags are returning from London, but they're still at home in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Mine is 4 points for whatever reason against Green Bay. I ultimately agree with you. I do. Like from my standpoint of analysis, like looking at these two teams, it doesn't make sense to me why the line is the way it is or why people feel this way. But I do get it. It's just weird matchups at the end of the day. You got the Jags in a spot where they really could use a win, right? I guess they got that win against the Patriots last week, and it may have brought them back to life, I guess, is the assumption there. But I would still lean Green Bay. I am staying away from the spread though.
Yeah.
I just don't like the 4 points. I'm
Yeah.
staying away from that. I would almost take like the Jags like +5. Just feels like a weird trap game. Like
Yeah.
one of these games is the Packers are going to have a letdown. Jordan Love, has thrown a couple picks, maybe turns the ball over today. But on the other side of that, they've been winning games with the turnovers. Maybe he's due for a clean game.
For a clean game, yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's an
No, I
interesting
do agree, and I do agree with Darius in the comments. Like Green Bay, obviously on paper should win this matchup. I mean,
Yeah.
if you can't go into Jacksonville and get a win to continue to fight in this division that's so tight right now, the best division in football. When you have to go to Detroit, when you have to go to Chicago, when you have to play Minnesota, again, like how is that going to look? And they have to go to Minnesota next time. So
Yeah.
this is one of those spots where just I kind of view it the same as the Falcons. It's week 8. There's a lot of season left to be played, but when you are in the midst of a division battle, you need to go and win this game. If you're Green Bay, there really aren't any excuses. So
let me ask you this:
yeah,
between this game, Packers at Jags, and the Lions and Titans, which one of those spreads would you like more for the underdog? I guess so. To be clear, the Titans, I believe, are 11.5 underdogs.
yeah, I got 12.5 right here.
12.5. Okay. So I guess like which one of those do you think is You trust the Lions more, obviously.
I trust somehow trust the Jags to cover more than I would trust Tennessee. I don't see Tennessee going into Detroit.
Oh, it's in
and
Detroit.
putting up any kind of fight today.
I was thinking maybe a trap game for the Lions, but I mean not that not that much, right?
Yeah, no.
Just an interesting thought there. Tua coming back for Miami this week, man. Oh, before we move to that game, I just looked. Adam Schefter, T. Higgins is out today.
Yeah.
He is inactive today, so we got that confirmed. That was like 19 minutes ago, so you may have already seen that. But I just saw it. Just want to give that update. But Tua returns today. What does this Dolphins team look like? And I wanted to throw this to you, man. The Dolphins right now have like one of the best defenses apparently in the NFL. Now, maybe it's based on the competition that they've been playing, different things like that, but they are hoisting up the number one pass defense in the NFL. They get Tua back now. Maybe that obviously, helps their passing game, their offense a lot. How are we feeling about the Cards game? Because this is another weird line. The Cards +4 here. It's in Miami. Tua returning. What's he really going to look like?
This is a big game for the Cardinals, man. I know it doesn't look like it. 3-4 versus 2-4. It doesn't look like a great game on paper. But when you think about it, look at what we were discussing on Thursday Night Football when it came to the LA Rams. At that moment, at that time, what were they? 3-4 at that time, or 2-4? They were 2-4. They were 2-4. So, and we were sitting here talking about if they could go win this game, they're 3-4. The Niners aren't that good. The Niners are beat up. The Niners are struggling. The Seahawks 4-3 are leading this division. You're right there if you can win that game. Yep. It's the same thing for the Cardinals. Now, am I saying that because I think the Cardinals are actually going to go forward and win this division? No, but you have an opportunity to compete for it. Like Geno Smith and the Seahawks at 4-3 are your competition right now. So this is a big game for the Cardinals to go on the road and try to get a win. Kyler's playing well. James Conner, Marvin Harrison Jr., they got to find ways to continue to get him the ball more, man. It's so hit or miss. There's weeks where the kid feels like he goes for 130. There's another week where it feels like he has 2 catches for 9 yards. Like they have to figure out a way to sustainably get him the ball. I mean, look at what the Giants were doing pre-concussion for Malik Neighbors. Same thing, right? Like Marvin Harrison Jr. picked ahead of Malik Neighbors. So they're going to have to find out a way to continue to get him involved because he is that special. Big game for the Cardinals from Tua's perspective, man. I don't know. Like I'll tell you this, Mike McDaniels better hope they win this game. The issue is all they needed to do was stay afloat without Tua. And it's just the quarterback play is ugly. Mike McDaniels does not tailor or change his play calling, his scheme without Tua. He's just trying to insert different guys, and it's not working, man. They've been one of the worst teams to watch, one of the most boring teams to watch. So Tua will bring back that explosiveness. Tyreek Hill's obviously very happy. But interesting game, man. If I had to place a bet on this one, I know you mentioned the Dolphins defense this year. 46 and a half could be interesting. Kyler with his ability to run and the Cardinals' ability to run the ball a bit with James Conner. The over could be a play here.
Yeah, no, I'm not against the over as well. I think both of these teams could get going today. Obviously, Tua coming back, that's going to be exciting for Miami. But I think, like you said, Arizona stepping up for the challenge. They present a different look than most teams, right? When you have that mobile quarterback, when you have a pounder back there in your running back, and you do have somebody as talented as Marvin Harrison Jr. and then also Trey McBride, right? So you got guys that can get open, right? Top level talent. So I like the over, and I also kind of like Arizona to cover the 4.5. I don't know if it's moved to 3.5 or 4.
I have it at 4 right now.
I really like, I like 4. I like 4.5. I like 4. I have a weird feeling the Cardinals win this one, man. I really do. I just think Tua's coming back, but it's his first game back from a head injury. How much has he been practicing? Yeah. What's he going to look like after he gets hit the first? There's a lot of question marks still with that offense, even with him coming back. So
look,
I'm just not 100% sold on the Dolphins just turning into, that high scoring offense like 2
Right,
years.
and right away too, like just
Right.
hopping right back into the
But
driver's seat with Tua in charge. But let me ask you a question: like moving forward, right? End of the year, Dolphins don't make the playoffs. I don't think they are in a crowded AFC. The Bills running away with their division, obviously, and then the wild card is going to be a crowded,
yeah.
room for any team that's trying to fight it towards the end of the year. If you're Miami, what do you do moving forward? Like it's Tua's choice. Like I know there's a lot of people, and you and I have even said it. Like, man, I think he should retire. Like, but at the end of the day, like all these people that like, I don't know. Is it like fake caring? Like when people come out and go, man, he needs to blah blah blah. Someone needs to tell him to stop. He has a family. Yeah, he has a family. He sat down with his family. They made the decision. It's up to him, obviously. But if you're Miami, can you continue to go in this direction year after year after year? Not even from a personal standpoint of like wanting to help the guy and wanting him to be healthy and safe, but from a franchise standpoint, dude, like this is it's every year. And I know that sounds crazy coming from a 76ers fan, but it is the same thing over and over again with these injuries and concussions for him. So I don't know what they do moving forward.
No, I completely agree with you, man. And I said it whenever he went down, a couple weeks ago, whenever that was. How the hell is Skylar Thompson your backup quarterback? Like, how with Tua as your starter? Like, even with Jalen Hurts as the starter, he hasn't had the injuries that Tua has had, the concerns that Tua has. And we still go out, get Gardner Minshew. We go out, get Marcus Mariota. We go out, we get Kenny Pickett, right? Like, and I'm not saying Kenny Pickett's going to save the offense, but he's better than Skylar Thompson. And so then you go out and you get Tyler Huntley. Like you said,
it's a good point.
Mike McDaniel doesn't adjust. So to that point, man, I think they should have already had somebody better as a backup. But now you get to this point, man. He's 26. You do have this scenario where, man, what are the odds that he gets concussed one more time in his career?
Pretty fucking high,
one more time in the next 2 years.
Pretty fucking high.
You know what I mean? And I'm not wishing that on him at all.
No, hell no. Obviously not. But obviously not.
Again, it's so cringy, man. I'm not going to sit here and try to mimic it, but it is very cringe to even watch as like somebody who thoroughly enjoys football. Yeah. It makes you question everything. You know what I mean? When you see things like that. So I don't even know if that's good. That's not even good for the NFL to have that.
No.
Like that higher chance of possibility.
Hell no, especially when concussions have been such a fucking mainstream storyline over the last decade and a half. Like they made a goddamn movie about. Like it's been a problem. There's been so many lawsuits, and it's become such a thing. And they've changed rules, and they've changed plays and kickoffs, and everything, spacing, all to try to limit this stuff. And then you have a guy that just continues to have injuries. I saw that McDaniel needs to go back to OC, man. That's what I was going to ask you to wrap up this Dolphins conversation. Like, is he on the hot seat at the end of this year? Like, dude, I've never seen a dude just float under the radar as much as Mike McDaniels, because listen, he's the one of the younger offensive minds, right? He's up there. He's put up there with the Sean McVays of the world and Shanahan's of the world, etc. Like you said, who doesn't adjust, man? If we were Eagles fans and we ran a very specific type of offense surrounding Jalen Hurts, and then Jalen Hurts goes down, and we watched our head coach or our play caller continue to just implement the same scheme and call the same plays with Kenny Pickett or someone else, and it's not working over and over and over again, that's disgusting. And the last thing you mentioned they're poorly run. They're poorly coached. They're poorly run. How do you not look at the backup quarterback position as a need? Look at all the backlash the Jets caught the last 2 years, right? Yeah. And to last year specifically. Yeah. How do you not plan for this, right?
Yeah.
If you're the Dolphins, how the fuck do you guys not plan for that?
And to your point about Mike McDaniel, if he's on the hot seat, should he lose his job? You can throw out there like, he's had to deal with Tua's head injury. But so did Saleh, right? And he got fired in New York. Like, it is what it is. You got to win games at the end of the day. And they're not getting better. They're regressing. Even when Tua's been in this season, the offense isn't what it was in 2022? Is that the right year when they were leading the NFL and
believe so.
everything.
I believe
Tyreek Hill in that offense, they still had a good year last year, but there was the year where Mike McDaniel got crowned as this wizard, right?
Yeah.
But in reality, they were really high flying early on. They crumbled once it got cold out. It is interesting to think about where this team is going because, like, let's be for real. Could they win a championship?
No.
Even if Tua is healthy.
Mm-mm.
They don't look like a championship team,
No.
man. And to that point, I think, Mike McDaniel has to be on the hot seat. He'll get a job in a heartbeat as an offensive coordinator, which is probably where he belongs, man. Focus on what you like to do. It is interesting to think about. There was times where he was getting crowned as the next big coach, right? But you gotta weather the storm. You gotta get through these times. And it's like you said, you get to this situation where Tua's been out for so many weeks now. You have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle on the outside, and you can't get the ball to them. That's ridiculous. On all levels, whoever planned this out, it's ridiculous.
It's sickening. And even in past years, man, you just can't take them seriously. You mentioned the high-flying offense, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. Look at what Raheem Mostert and Achane have been able to do as a duo the last 2 years together, and how many touchdowns that backfield has scored and how explosive they are, and you just never take them seriously. And it doesn't make sense how you mentioned, their defense has been more than good enough. So you would think if they had this high-flying offense and now the defense is catching up, they could be a contender, but they're not. Another AFC matchup in the AFC South, Colts-Texans, second time they're meeting this year. Yeah. They met all the way back in week 1 in Indy when C.J. Stroud and the Colts won a very exciting game. Anthony Richardson threw the craziest ball of the year all the way back a few weeks back. Texans at home, 4.5, 5-point favorites, 45.5 is the total. That's an interesting play for me in this one, potentially. CJ Stroud, bounce back spot, man. What did he throw for last week? 87, 89 passing yards. To me, probably a Joe Mixon day. If I'm going to look at his props. I don't know what his rushing line set at. You got to remember in week 1, he tore up the Colts, and he's when healthy, because he missed a couple weeks. We know that when healthy, man, they've been riding Joe Mixon, 77 carries on the year, over 400 rushing yards on just 77 carries. That's absurd. So Joe Mixon get a steady dose today, and CJ Stroud bounces back. I do like the Texans in this one.
Yeah, Joe Mixon Tutty has lost all the juice, man. It's like minus 200,
First of all, let me address something really quickly.
Yeah, talk to me.
Such bullshit.
Talk to me.
No player. Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey, when he was healthy, no player should be minus 200 to score a fucking touchdown.
Yeah. Derrick Henry barely scored last week.
Yeah.
He barely scored. He scored on a receiving touchdown.
Go back to week 2, Monday night, Eagles home opener. Saquon Barkley was minus 190 to score a touchdown. Saquon Barkley get in the end zone? No.
Right.
Like, it's a really bad market, especially on DraftKings, man.
I agree, man. And honestly, not to bring up another sport, but soccer's the same way. Anytime goal scorers being minus 150, minus 200.
That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
Not a lock. If there's no such thing as a lock when it comes to scoring like that, man. But no, I'm with you on the Texans here. It feels like a huge bounce back game for CJ Stroud. The Colts, they just kind of look all over the place. Is Jonathan Taylor back today? That's something I did want to.
I believe so.
Check on. I'd seen his props, so I figured he was.
I saw a tweet like 2 days ago that he was planning to play.
It's a good addition. You have Anthony Richardson there, that duo in the backfield. I just in a bounce back spot for the Texans. I just don't see the Colts like sneaking away with the win. The Texans need this win. I expect them to come out and perform today, but it is going to be interesting once again seeing CJ Stroud without Nico Collins. Like, there's been a lot of talk. I've done a lot of thinking, about Jalen Hurts without receivers. And you look around the league, and it's just interesting, right? When guys don't have their number 1 or even their number 2 receivers, how much worse.
It is true. Because I think the easy thing from the outside looking in is to say, well, he's still got so many other weapons. He's still got Stephon Diggs. He still has Tank Dell. He still has Dalton Schultz. He still has Joe Mixon. That's true. But the Eagles, same thing. A.J. Brown goes down. He still has Devontae Smith. He still has Saquon Barkley. He still had Dallas Goedert. Like, he's got options. That number 1 guy, man, changes things for a quarterback. So Stroud without Collins is going to continue to be a development. The Texans are 3-0 at home. The Colts are 1-2 on the road so far this year. I do like the Texans in this spot, man. I think it's definitely a week that they need to take control of this game. Moving on to
the spread.
I think I like the total more than I like the spread.
Yeah, I agree.
I think their week 1 game went like 29-27 or something like that.
Yeah, it was really
29-28. It was very high
scoring game too. Yeah.
So no, I do kind of like that total, and maybe even all it down a bit. A few more games to get to before we get out of here and head on over to talk about that Eagles-Bengals matchup on pregame live. Bills Seahawks, man, in Seattle. No DK Metcalf, if I'm correct.
Correct.
Yeah. So that's a big time development for Seattle, who's trying to stay ahead, in the NFC West. Josh Allen, no turnovers on the year, man. Going into that environment, that crowd's going to be juiced up, man, because like I said, they are atop of their division right now. Their fans are believing a bit. The Bills coming to town. It's a big time matchup for them. Josh Allen, can he go into that environment and continue to protect the football and continue to develop with Amari Cooper and the young kid in Keon Coleman, get James Cook acclimated? I like the Bills in this spot, man. Again, is it a total game? 45 and a half? Is there enough explosive plays to go around for that total to hit? But I like the Bills to go on the road and get it done. Here's the thing. They're 5-2. Both losses are on the road for the Bills.
Yeah.
So
it is interesting. You look at Seattle's offense, though. The only thing that worries me is, what does Geno look like without DK? What does that offense turn into without DK?
Exactly. Another number one wide receiver missing.
And JSN as your go-to guys for the day. Seattle is hoisting up statistically the best passing offense in the NFL, the most yards, right? So it is an interesting matchup. It feels once again like a trap game for Buffalo, traveling to Seattle, traveling across country, against a sturdy team, a team that can challenge you, right? But I would say this: out of all of the teams that are kind of in this situation today, the Packers, the Falcons are traveling to Tampa, the Packers are traveling to Jacksonville, even the Texans at home against the Colts, right? These not like bounce back games, but more or less like it feels like the spread is a little too close for the matchup, if that makes sense. Out of all those games, I trust Buffalo the most.
Yeah,
I do. And the spread's only -3 right now.
Yeah.
I do like Buffalo to cover that. I just think in spots, you talk about like the Eagles in Cincinnati today is like a big game. Prove that you are what we think you are. I think this is the same thing for the Bills. Even on the road, you should go in and beat a DK-less Seattle Seahawks team, man. They shouldn't be able to score with you guys today.
I agree.
Yeah, and see what Amari Cooper looks like in that offense.
I do agree. I think even if DK Metcalf was playing today, the Buffalo Bills should go on the road and win this game. I mean, you have to start. You have to continue to separate yourselves if you're the Bills. And what I mean by that is they're in this weird area right now. They're 5-2. Josh Allen is top 3 MVP candidate right now. Are they contenders, right? Like we watched them match up with the Ravens, albeit on the road, right? They got their teeth kicked in. There's been a couple letdown spots for them specifically on the road this year. The Seahawks, not really a team we're bought into. I think even when they started the year, what were they, 3-0 or 2-0 or something very early on? Just not a team that we were really thinking is real. And if you are missing your number one wide receiver, we've seen how it affects Jalen Hurts. We've seen how it's affecting CJ Stroud. It's probably going to be more of the same when it comes to Geno Smith. Kenneth Walker is a name to keep an eye on today, man. If he can create some explosive plays against this Buffalo defense to try to keep it close. But ultimately, I do trust the Bills probably the most in one of these weird line games that we've discussed so far. But
do you think Josh Allen throws his first pick today, though?
I'm going to say no. Josh Allen is someone I've been very critical of over the last 2 to 3 years doing the show with you. And I think he's making a believer out of me, man, because it's not just protecting the ball. Sometimes more is less is more. You move on from Stephon Diggs. I know they just brought in Amari Cooper, scored his first touchdown last week in game 1. But before that, man, when they were 4-2, he's throwing to a rookie in Keon Coleman. Khalil Shakir has to step up, right? He's got to get the ball to James Cook out of the backfield. He's just been very, very level throughout this year, and it's very steady. And he's not forcing things. He's making the hero plays when he needs to, but he's not trying to do too much with less help this year. And I think he'll continue to do that today. One more game before we get to Sunday Night Football, man. And the NFL flexed the Bengals, Eagles out of this spot. I get it, for the quarterback matchup. Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams. They better hope Jaden Daniels plays. I think he's going to. I think Washington understands the moment. I believe so. I think he's trending towards playing today, but he was week to week after suffering that rib injury early on against the Panthers, I believe, last week. Washington undefeated at home. The Bears, again, another team like Buffalo, 4-2, both losses on the road. Caleb Williams is playing a lot better football ever since that slow start to the season, man. This should be a fun matchup. Again, the total. If Jaden Daniels plays 45, man, like the Commanders are dropping 30 plus a week, it feels like right now. The offense for the Bears is humming a little bit more. They're coming off a bye. They should be better rested. Keenan Allen get better rested. I love the total in this game, I think, Scotty.
Yeah, no, I feel you. The only worry there would just be if Daniels does start, does he look like himself? Is he able to run the football like he normally does? Is he that dual threat? But to your point, these are two offenses that should score some points today, man. I know the Bears defense is a little underrated. And if Jaden Daniels doesn't play, that's going to be very interesting to see how Mariota handles that, because they are right now the Bears hoisting up the number 5 overall defense in the NFL. It's kind of been slept on with, the Caleb Williams, and rightfully so. Obviously, he's the number 1 overall pick. He's going to take all the attention right now. But you got the 4-2 Bears in a really, really big spot right now. Obviously, the Commanders are too. There's just something, maybe it's just because I want it to happen, but there's just something telling me the Bears are going to win this game. You got Jaden Daniels beat up. And it's not just because I want the Bears to win. It's more or less because if the Commanders can beat this Bears team with a banged up Jaden Daniels, once again, they're better than what I thought they were. And they're already better than what I thought they were coming into the season, to be clear, obviously. Yeah. But they're even better than I thought they were if they go out here and beat a tough Bears team. You got a beat up quarterback, and you are just kind of due for a loss. You're due for a letdown spot. So it is an interesting matchup. Chicago went into the bye week rolling. DeAndre Swift has been eating. I look for them to continue to get him involved, continue to get those wide receivers, those playmakers on the outside involved. And I do like the Bears, man. But I do ultimately agree with you. As long as Jaden Daniels looks semi like himself, they should put up some points today.
Yeah.
And we should see a pretty high scoring affair. But yeah, man,
I agree. I think that would be my play. If he plays, man, I have no idea which direction I lean. I agree with you. As an Eagles fan, we're hoping for a win, and we're hoping for a Commanders and Cowboys loss today. So we are pulling for Chicago in this spot, but playing very well at home, man. High flying offense. And I do think Jaden Daniels will play. It's a good point, man. It's week 8. The kid's playing out of his mind. Don't force it. If it the NFL needs him to play because you flex this game, but
are you doing this is the first time the Commanders have had attention, heavy attention on them, especially from quarterback play. Don't just do this because you're playing Caleb Williams today. You know what I mean? For the NFL. Don't do it for that reason. If he's good to go, he's good to go. But it is an interesting thought there with their history.
Yeah. Last game, man, to get into before we get on out of here. I see 30 people in the chat right now. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, please, for yourself, for us. It's the best spot. Like you see our man D-Rab getting into the comments for us to see them. We cannot see them on Twitter if that's where you are viewing still. Cowboys, Niners, Sunday Night Football. This is a game you looked on the schedule before the season started and you said, all right, good game. Both teams struggling right now.
Yeah.
However, Cowboys are struggling worse.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of drama going on, man. Their owner has been very vocal in the public. Apparently, did you see the report of that article that was written and getting blown up on ESPN about how like they have tours for fans like at the facilities,
Mhm.
like to come in and like see like they're like I saw them talking about it on ESPN, like they're in the fucking zoo. So like not just like at practice, man. Like they have tours. Like if you're eating in the cafeteria, the fans are getting tours walking around everywhere in the building. There's like no privacy for them.
Yeah.
And they asked CD Lamb and Dak about it, and like Dak like basically alluded to the fact like, oh, this is normal. And then other like former players were coming out like that is not normal. Like
Yeah.
your owner is like parading you guys around, and like this is crazy. So a lot of drama going on with the Cowboys, man. They are not putting it together offensively. We talked about this a week or two ago. Dak and CD, man. If there were supposed to be two constants, if there were supposed to be two things that were on the same page for this unit that was revamped or stripped down, I guess, because they didn't really add anything to it, it was supposed to be those two after getting paid. They're not. And they're frustrated on the sideline week after week. I know the Niners are struggling. I know they're beat up. They kick the dog piss out of the Cowboys every time they meet. I don't think this changes, man. I like the Niners in this spot. I don't know that I'm laying the spread yet. Maybe I'll alt it down a bit. I do think the Niners cover the 5 points in this one.
Yeah, man. I'm kind of leaning that way as well. It feels more like a bounce back game for the 49ers than the Cowboys. They're at home. The Cowboys have one of the worst rushing defenses in the NFL, 27th ranked. And I just think it's a heavy Jordan Mason game. And you can even use some of those backup backs. They looked good when he went out the other week. So I think they get the run game going. I think they get back to a little bit more of their identity. Deebo Samuel in the run game, in the short pass game.
Yeah.
If George Kittle can play, I could see him honestly having a huge game against that. He always does against Dallas. But yeah, it feels like a get right situation for San Fran. I would take the points. I would take a Jordan Mason over in yards. I would take Jordan Mason tutty. I would take all of it. I think they're going to run the ball down the Cowboys' throats, and I think they could put a spank into them, man. But I'll say this, man, I'm not going to lose sleep depending
Either
on
way,
which one of these teams win.
No.
I don't care. Either one losing is a great day for me. So I guess I would prefer the Niners to win too, if I had to choose. I guess.
There we go. There's our resident Niners fan in the chat. Niners need to have a solid showing today and give these young guys some confidence. Brock Purdy needs to have a bounce back game, man.
Yes,
if we're being listen, I know you're missing CMC. 9 touchdowns to 7 interceptions. And I know Patrick Mahomes, Aaron, like the league is throwing a lot of picks early on in the year. The one thing Brock Purdy has been able to do over the last year and a half has been what? Protect the football. Yeah. Right. Put this defense in advantageous position, run the football well, which they've even done without Christian McCaffrey for the most part, and get the ball in your playmakers' hands. 9 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. That is a very, very poor ratio. I think, what did he throw last week? 3 against the Chiefs. You cannot do that if you want to win this game. And I don't think he's going to. I think he's going to protect the football. I think Josh Allen is going to protect the football. And I think CJ Stroud is going to protect the football today.
When you lose CMC, you're going to have to take more risks ultimately down the field. And I think that's the results that we're seeing. It's mainly the screen game. There's no screen game without CMC for the Niners. And I think that's the big difference. Because like you said, Mason's been running the ball well. He's averaging 5 yards per carry, over 600 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns. So he's playing well as a running back, but CMC is obviously more than that. So we'll see if they try to force him back soon, man. I've been seeing some different reports.
I agree. Let's go talk about our birds over on the other stream, guys. If you are tuning in right now, again, 30 of you guys, if you're watching on Twitter, if you're watching on the Turf Talk YouTube channel, make sure to head on over to the DSM Philadelphia YouTube channel. Link is in the link tree in our Twitter bio. Subscribe, and we will be over there in about 5 to 10 minutes breaking down this Eagles-Bengals game, best bets, predictions, standout stars, keys to victory, and so much more. For myself, for Scotty, we greatly appreciate each and every one of you. Peace out, everybody.
Peace. Go Birds.